So our lecture today would be about sustainability principles, as I said. Next, we're going to see why we need integrated planning and what is really integrated planning in a brief introduction, because later in the course we're going to see it more thoroughly. And we're going to talk about one traditional, but it's now getting attention again, one concept of the compact city and how we can measure it and how we can utilize that for the future of urban areas and for our cities. So just to begin with, we all have heard, I think, the sustainability word. This concept is now like 30 or 40 years of being in the global debate on how we develop, about development, about our cities, about the transport, about environment and stuff like that. So we have to note that this kind of concept is multidimensional, meaning that we should have we should take into account a holistic approach. And when we say multidimensional, we have three main pillars. The first one is the environment. So just one more time, we have to be prepared about sustainability is not only about the environment, not only about physical or natural environment. It's also about economic issues and social issues. Therefore, we have to take that into our perspective when we plan. When we understand, we try to analyze and understand our cities, and then when we want to plan our areas, regardless of their size, we have to follow these principles. First environment, then economy and society. So we see these three circles like a Venn diagram. One moment to the pointer. Is there any point? Okay, perfect. Now you see also the pointer here. We can see we have economics, we have environment and society, and in their intersections we can find justice, we can find the ability to preserve our environment and also acceptance. So this is the main pillars of sustainability, and all these principles should guide our course and in general our practice towards the future. So briefly about the origins of sustainability, the definition says the major one is that we have to develop, follow a development style, a development process that meets our needs of the present without at the same time compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So the debate started like at the end of the 70s, after the oil crisis, and then gradually we have many summits, many seminars, conferences on this kind of concept. And the most recent one is not on 2012, but is on 2016 in Paris, the Paris Agreement, and also some more of them. But the major one is the Brundtland report, where you can find these very definitions, our common future. This is the title of the report. So to the basics, why we need that. Okay, we have now to take into account sustainability, but why? Okay, it's very important to understand the issues that we face, and they are many and they are very serious. And I'm really happy that this kind of lecture follows the lecture of Professor Bertolini, because he stated some very major issues that we face. Okay, he concentrated on cars, but we have to expand this discussion and concentrate on many things, like the climate change, as we saw it before. Also, the rapid urbanization, social inequalities. This is very important for our cities, as inequalities can be spatial, can be not only social, but can be spatial. For example, if I live in an area that is being served from public transport very well, then okay, I'm lucky. But what if I live in another area where no bus lines are operating? Then it's a problem. Then it's an inequality, and we have to deal with that. Public health issues, especially after COVID-19, conditions are totally different than before. We also have many conceptual models about designing and planning our cities regarding to public health and, for example, to foster public health facilities, to also foster green areas in our city where we can walk and where we can have many activities like strolling or taking kids, for example, outside to play and stuff like that. Also, another issue of sustainability and take into account is overuse of renewable sources, because renewable sources are something that we need, but we should focus very carefully where and under what, in which conditions we should develop such an approach. We also have pollution, and as we see here, this is the pollution related problems. This is sort of urbanization, but we also have, especially in urban areas, unattractive places, inaccessible spaces, and also places that exclude many people from walking and from, in general, from interacting with others. So these are some major problems that we have to take into account and promote sustainability. What can we achieve through sustainability concept? And what can we achieve with differing traditional principles of planning, like the zoning planning, for example, that it was in the 60s, the zoning planning. To be more specific, we have the land use is separated, and one part is exclusively housing, another part is exclusively central activities, and we have to transform these kind of concepts and see the future in an integrated way. So what sustainability can achieve? First of all, it tries to ensure a future for all of us, regarding of issues that we may face, regarding of our condition, regarding of where are we born, regarding of our, let's say, income and other things like that. Also, we have to, what else we can achieve? We can achieve reduce energy usage, change our petrol cars with walking, cycling, replacing these kind of trips with different ones. Also, we can achieve accessible cities. They are responding to the issue that I demonstrated to you before. And of course, protect our ecosystems and the natural environment. These are very, very, very important things that we can achieve, and we have to achieve them. It's not an option anymore. Sustainability should and must be promoted. So, to our topic, planning. Our topic in this semester would be planning. We have not only to understand, not only to analyze, but we have to plan our cities, to change them. So this course, the whole course, is going to give you some tips, going to provide you with some info, with some tools, with some principles of how to plan cities. But what cities exactly? Sustainable cities, sustainable neighborhoods, sustainable metropolitan areas. So we're going to discuss them in our course with the application that we're going to do on site in Athens and Nicosia. It's very important to understand the principles. And together we're going to speak with many different things for planning sustainable cities: urban morphology, mobility planning, land use planning, and all these kind of interesting things. Just to note, after the lecture, after this lecture, I will try to be not very quick, but somehow quick. We can discuss some questions that may arise to your head or any other question that you may have related to the course and the principles. That could be very helpful to understand the goals of our today's lecture and our course in general. So to continue, planning sustainable cities. Okay, according to Rio +20, it's important to promote an integrated planning approach. So we try to achieve an integrated approach, just like the course, not only because it's a strand of scientific knowledge, is also something that we have to follow for our cities in general, according to the summits, according to the sustainability principles in general. So we should give emphasis, in this course, we should give emphasis, but in general, we should emphasize that cities should implement some sustainable mobility and in planning, land use planning, urban waste planning, urban water planning, for example, but they should be sustainable, and also we should adopt these kind of principles. In this kind of endeavor, we have to highlight the pivotal role of local administrative bodies, and also the great role of participatory approaches. So this is something that we're also gonna talk about in the course, about participation, because sustainability without participation, it's nothing. It is a coin, it's like a coin, and we have two dimensions. The first one is our principles, economy, society, and environment, and the other one is participation. The people should get involved in all these kind of plans. Okay, so another very important element of our course would be participation. And also another type of when we plan, okay, we're not going to practice that in our course, but it's also something that we should have in mind, the cooperation between cities, between regions, between countries. Okay, the problem of climate change, for example, is not only focusing on one part of our globe. It's like something that goes beyond borders. So we have to cooperate with different entities from different cities and different kind of disciplines. The formal framework, we have to understand in this course, this is something that I want you to remember. We have to understand, to distinguish the different elements of when we plan. Okay, we have many factors affecting the formulation of planning. We have political and economic conditions. We have also the institutional and formal planning systems. This is very interesting. For example, we do have differences even between Mediterranean countries. For example, between Greece and Cyprus, we may have many common things, but in the planning system, there are differences. So this is also another important element when we plan. We have to know the laws. We have to know something that is going to be that is forbidden to change, something that is protected. And when we want to see our environment as a whole, as an entire entity, we have also to know the legal framework. Also, which should respect sociocultural structures, because it's different to change an area where income is very high, contrary to another area where income is low or medium. So we should take into account this as well. Or we may have even different issues in areas with different socioeconomic, not only socioeconomic, but cultural differences. It's totally different to plan in Western Europe compared to Eastern Europe, for example, or in Europe in general compared to Latin America. Some problems may be the same, but some others are totally different. So we should respect that when we plan. And we should acknowledge, of course, it's very important. Who we are talking to. This is very important when we plan. We have to understand the different scales of planning. It's different to like, for example, plan for a neighborhood and to plan for a whole municipality. Between state and the citizens, and between what we define as efficient and inefficient. So this is very important when we plan. And to deal with all of these problems, to follow the sustainability approaches and the concept in general, we have to adopt an integrated approach. And when we say integrated approach, don't be scared. Okay, it's like a word that is not. It's okay. Maybe it's common in like 10 years or 20 years before, but it wasn't mainly common in the traditional planning rationale. So what is integrated approach? Integrated approach is that I'm not, for example, an urban planner and only plan land uses and design public spaces. I have to interact with a transport plan and vice versa. Transport planners should acknowledge the role of the urban fabric and the land uses, because until now, or until like 10 years ago, as I said before, these were different and separate kinds of projects. And still, for example, here in Greece, that we know, still in some cases, there are some projects that are totally isolated from one discipline to another. Also, what we mean through integrated approach, to understand different tools. For example, we cannot only focus on quantitative tools. We should also utilize qualitative tools as well. Numbers could be very helpful, but we also should understand, when we plan, the mindset of people. So integrated approach also in this, and in the roles between people, between the different kinds of actors that engage onto planning. Again, this is also something important, because traditionally universities create like the theory, and practitioners follow the practice, and they try to implement and design, and the local authorities or administration tries to like mix them up, or tries to control the practitioners and engage into a planning, into the implementation of planning. But no. Integrated approach should be holistic, even in the roles. We should understand each other right now. Universities should be the leaders in theory, but they should also embark somehow into planning to understand practitioners, and also practitioners should have like a common language. They should not be academics, but they should have a common vocabulary to discuss with theory, and also to understand different kinds of approaches. So with integrated, we talk about disciplines: urban planning, transport planning, environmental planning, economic planning. Mainly in our course, we're going to focus on transport and urban planning, but it's more expanded. We have to cooperate between roles, and we have to cooperate between tools and methods. So you have to note that for our course. Harry, is your microphone open? Do you want to say something? Ah, perfect. But if you want, please, you can. So let's continue and leave some room for discussion afterwards. So what we can also say is that urban and transport dimension, these dimensions play a pivotal role. And one very, very important kind of concept is the compact city approach. So what we say when we have to define the compact city is an old concept, but it can be utilized for the future. Compact city also aligns with other initiatives like 15-minute city that maybe you're aware of. It's a kind of being able to do our basic activities within 15 minutes of walking, preferably, or cycling. And our main elements are like efficient public transport here in the compact city paradigm, reduced pollution, accessibility, very important, walkability in particular, or cycle or bikeability, the ability to cycle, a well-organized urban infrastructure, dedicated spaces to different kinds of transport modes or different kinds of actors. For example, in the compact city, we should allocate the road space differently and devote some space to pedestrians, because today, especially in the Mediterranean cities, we have seen, or in the Balkans, we have seen a great percentage of roads without sidewalk. What can we do there, for example? What else? High density. High density is a key principle, is a key element of it's a name after all. We have to focus on density, not everywhere in our city, but in the space, in the areas that we are going to define. For example, I have Nicosia, and I endeavor to increase the density of the buildings. I'm not gonna do this in the whole city. I'm gonna distinguish the different parts, for example, the historical center or the new center or some other area in the suburbs. We're going to distinguish them and then make these kind of shifts very, very carefully. So high density, and also high density accessibility and all of that. Try, at least this is what the literature says, try to increase the social interaction. So we have environmental protection because we do not expand. Compact city is something, the word says that. It's compact, we do not expand, we protect the environment. We also try to be socially inclusive, accessibility, walkability, public transport, so society. And also through society and environment, we're going to promote the economy as well. Local economy, for example. We walk, so different kinds of stores are going to open, different kind of bars, restaurants, different kind of leisure and recreation activities are going to emerge. So economy can be favored from the compact city as well. These are some conceptual diagrams. You may find that in our presentation. Also see that smartness, we also have to somehow, but very carefully, because we know the risks of technology and smart mobility, smart cities, and all of that. We cannot ignore that. We should adopt it very carefully in our cities. Also, this is a great interaction between different kind of elements like people, environment, infrastructure, the formal planning. For example, what is else very significant for the compact city? We may have an area where the land uses are depending on the zoning system. For example, they're everywhere housing, and all other uses are forbidden, are restricted. So to implement the compact city, if we want this kind of area, we have to change the laws. We have to change the legal framework. So this is also another very important part of the compact city, and of course of integrated planning in general. We do not only have to design or to plan, but we also have to take into account the legal framework beforehand when we plan, to know what to change or to pressure the the government to change the legal framework, because we have very and many benefits to share if we achieve a compact city. What else? Note that, please. We have to shift from like an inverted, let's say, like the diagram says, polycentricity to a compact and organized polycentric city. A compact city is not a city that has a huge center, a huge central area. A compact city should also have local neighborhoods. So these two diagrams are very important when we want to design. The right one is about transforming these practice of the many centers that are not connected. Maybe they are not connected at all, or they are connected only through car, which is a problem for the integrated approach, and to shift to a compact polycentricity where we organize the central areas, and when we know which one of them is the major one, which one of them is a secondary one, the tertiary one, the fourth one, and so on and so forth. And in the left kind of diagram, we have to change our traditional zoning system, because otherwise cities could expand endlessly. So we have to be more concise, be more compact, and have some intersections in our areas, just like the diagram demonstrates. Some other diagrams as well. You may find a lot of diagrams, because I right now I'm explaining 2 or 3 of them, but afterwards, when you want to use this type of material that we're going to give you, it could be much more efficient, much more interesting, let's say, to by your own. So we have put a lot of them to navigate yourselves after the course. We can see another great point is the intersection of all these kind of things. So if we want to go into deeper analysis, in the deeper zoom, in a deeper scale, in a lower scale, more zooming in our areas, we can see that sprawled cities, we have all this type of unorganized distribution of land uses, but in a compact and connected city, these kind of land uses, conceptually, this is a conceptual diagram, we can organize them accordingly and distribute the land uses themselves, but also the types of connecting them one with each other. Some examples, we have Copenhagen, which is a great example of this kind of compact city, because as Professor Bertolini showed before, before talking about sustainability, they tried to do an organized planning scheme for their city. Also see that. See the difference between Copenhagen and Vancouver. Vancouver is an example of an urban sprawl. On the other hand, Copenhagen is like something that we build on density. Of course, the central areas are more dense than the others, but this is something that we have today. In a future kind of planning, we can differentiate that and also achieve the high densities in the suburbs as well, if we want, if we connect them, of course. First of all, we also see these kind of diagrams. This is the urban density, and this is the consumption here, or the length of trips. And we can see that European cities, and more than European cities, we have Asian cities, especially in China or Indonesia, or in in Thailand, and all these kind of countries. they do really have compact cities. On the other hand, we have the American cities. They are really sprawled, North America especially. To embark into also an example from Athens, I would like to thank Harry for demonstrating this kind of his work back then in 2018. What they tried to do, they tried to measure urban density, and not only urban density, but they went beyond that, because it's easy to measure one thing. Okay, we have density of our blocks, we have the density of our municipalities, and we can also measure for the metropolitan area. But what they did something even more holistic. They tried to define how compact a city is, and they applied that to Athens, and they took into account density, public transport, accessibility via cycling, to be more specific, the land use mix, and also the public spaces. And they formulated 3 clusters. And here is the urban core of the metropolitan Athens. I don't know if any of you have visited Athens, maybe yes, maybe not, but this kind of clustering helps us to identify the potential of a compact city, and also help us understand when and where, of course, we can change our cities. Because if we do not know where to implement the policies and interventions, then we have many problems. So in terms of that, we can see that the more central areas are the most ready to welcome a compact city scheme. On the other hand, we have the northern suburbs and the southern suburbs that they are more resistant to such policies. Okay, so we also, and through this course, you are going to somehow dig into tools to identify the compactness, and also to identify integrated planning methods. So one very important kind of changing our cities, kind of planning, of rethinking our cities, let's say, is the integrated urban and transport planning. So what we can gain from this, if we just concentrate on urban policies and transport policies themselves, we can formulate compact cities. Because for example, I would like to change my city. I'm not gonna change only the land uses and nothing else. I'm gonna change the land uses, but taking into account, for example, the metro stations, or a future expansion of the metro system, or even a creation of a metro system in scratch. For example, in Nicosia, there's not a subway or a metro system. But let's imagine that someone from the municipality comes to you and says, okay, we're trying to develop the city differently in 20 years from now. What can we do? Integrated urban and transport planning approach would be helpful, because you are not going to say, okay, we are going to change the land uses. You're going to answer through embracing these 2 dimensions together. We're going to change the land uses, but also what about constructing a metro line? Because metro is highly beneficial for reducing congestion, for protecting the environment, the environmental element of sustainability, and also for reducing car trips and making spaces more accessible, and making room for interactions. So what is the answer when we want to plan for the future? This kind of integrated approach. It's like other dimension we're going to lose its 100% possibilities nearly 100%. So we have to take into account that urban issues should be coupled with transport issues. And when we differentiate and change one of that, we should take into account the other. For example, another example that would be valuable, if we change all the sidewalks in our area, that could be both urban and transport planning, but transport planners claim that changing sidewalks or cycling lanes, it's their duty. Okay, we change them. But what about the land uses that are served by these sidewalks? They may change as well. So we have to embark on a different kind of mindset. In this course, we're going to discuss about this, of planning together urban transport through participatory approach and also through data-driven methods. Okay, so just note also this one, the integrated urban transport planning approach. And I think I'm done for now. I think we have also some room for questions, and thank you so much for being here.